Good morning, everybody. So on the bench here we have a Troy-Bilt Jumpstart No Mixing, model number TB575 EC. Don't really know much about this thing. A neighbor brought it by, and I see this fuel line is just crumbled, so that's probably part of our problem. Yeah, in fact, I think all of them have crumbled. So I think we already know what's wrong with this thing. I haven't even looked at it yet. So probably have to deal with this. So I'm not even going to bother putting gas in it. Let's go and start to disassemble the carb here and see what's going on. Probably just a typical case of ethanol in the fuel and sitting for years. Start by taking the air cleaner cover off. Looks like it's already partially off. Ooh, lovely. So there's a bit of RTV here. Interesting. Super flexible. I guess let's take this air cleaner housing off. Looks like either a flathead screwdriver or a T25 Torx. I'm going to go the Torx route. Not very tight at all. This, I believe, is a 4-stroke. Yeah, these lines are just done. They're just coming apart in my hands. I don't see a grommet on this fuel tank, so that could make things interesting. Yeah, this purge bulb is going to come apart too. I think we're going to end up going through this whole carb. How easily is this going to popped off easily? Gasket looks fine. So it came off like that. You can see the purge bulb is already cracked, and it just came apart. Don't use ethanol fuel in 2-strokes, folks. That is what causes this. Let's see what we can fish out of this fuel tank, because we got to get new lines in there. Yeah, that didn't really put up much of a fight. Yeah. Wow. I'm going to go fishing in the fuel tank with this hemostat, see if I can pull out what fuel or fuel line remains. Yep, going to come out in pieces. Here's our fuel filter. All right, I'm going to hit the fuel tank with some compressed air. There's no fuel in there, but I just want to get out any particulates of fuel line that might remain. Cover your ears. Okay, I got the fuel tank all cleaned out. One of these things came off. I think it's just a union of some kind. I'm not sure why that's needed, but let's tear into this carburetor. It looks like, I mean, it kind of looks like a Zama, just from the outside. It might be a clone, actually. It says, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it says like RUIXING. Not really sure. Let's get that carb apart, see what's inside. That hole's not supposed to be there. Diaphragm's a little stiff, but doesn't feel horrible. Okay, got the carburetor all apart. I stand corrected. This is actually closer to a, oh, it's actually a Walbro clone, it looks like. So I was able to find this gasket and fuel pump diaphragm in my bag of tricks over here. I found a couple of spares. The only thing I don't seem to have an exact copy of is this diaphragm here. I'm going to try and replace it, but first I'm going to soak the whole thing in the ultrasonic cleaner in warm water just to hopefully soften those gaskets. They come apart a little bit easier. So let this soak in warm water for about half an hour. Several of you have asked about this ultrasonic cleaner. It's just a cheapie that I picked up off of Amazon many years ago. I don't even think they sell it anymore, to be honest with you. It's probably discontinued. Does work pretty well, though. I'm pretty happy with it. The heater in it died pretty quickly. I want to say like within the first year. The power switch came off and kind of disintegrated, but it still runs. So I'm just going to put all the carb parts in this little basket here so we don't lose anything. And again, this is just warm water for now, no cleaner yet. And we'll hit start and walk away. See you in 30 minutes. Okay, ultrasonic cleaner just finished. I ended up throwing a little bit of simple green in there, but nothing too crazy. I was able to pull off the diaphragm that goes over here. The gasket's still there. I think I might leave it there. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. Diaphragm is rock hard though. So I'm just going to take these parts out and just blow them off with some compressed air, and then we'll reassemble. Okay, got everything all cleaned up and dry. Over here is everything that was part of the carburetor. Over here are gaskets and diaphragms and other things I'm going to use here. So let's start the reassembly process. So it's important to match up the diaphragm, the fuel pump diaphragm, which is what this is that came out. So take note, it's got just the shape overall, and you want to get one that's an exact match. Has to be exact. And I think this one is an exact match. And there are some indentations in this one that are not in the new one, which is to be expected because it is brand new. So we'll go ahead and we'll lay that on here. Just like so. Oh wait, I'm forgetting there was a spring under here. This spring sat right there. Don't normally see that one. I'm not exactly sure what that's for. If anybody knows, let me know. But that was under the old one, so we're putting it back. Just like that. Take our new diaphragm here. Here's the old one. Similar in shape, not exact, but close enough. And then this guy goes on here next. Just like that. That's how it's sandwiched together. I do have a new primer / purge bulb right here. Now it's just a simple matter of reinstalling the screws. Okay, got the screws retightened, new purge bulb on. Now we got to run new fuel lines. Sometimes this process can be a little tricky. I just got some rubber fuel line. I'm not going to use that clear stuff because that doesn't seem to hold up well to a lot of fuels. So you're just going to kind of have to work it in this hole. Sometimes putting a little bit of oil on it helps. Get this thing off. Hopefully it doesn't break. There we go. I can work it in with a screwdriver. Try throwing a little bit of oil on the line. Just a little bit of two-stroke oil. See if this helps. I realize you guys probably can't see, so let me work at this for a bit. If you absolutely cannot get it, no matter what you try cutting the fuel line at a 45-degree angle like that, making a point. That may help thread it in. So something like That. Let's see if that helps. Sometimes it does help to reach inside and pull down on it as you're pushing in, which is what I did with this hemostat here. Just kind of reach in and grab the line, pull down as you're pushing in. Now that we've got enough lines sticking out here, let's square off this angle here, and we could put our fuel filter back on. Just like so. All right, so we got our fuel supply line. Now we got to do the same thing for the return line right here, but we don't need to put a fuel filter on the other end of it. Cut it at 45. This one might be a little bit easier just because it's closer. Oh, pulling the wrong one. Still pulling the wrong one. Still pulling the wrong one. There we go, now I got it. I had it. There we go. So I think on the carb, this one is the supply and this one's the return, but I always get them mixed up. So let's give it a try and see what happens. I'll throw a little bit of gas in the tank and we'll see if this thing pumps before we hook everything back up. More than enough for a test. Yep, got it right. Look at that, I'm a good guesser. All right, let's put the carb back on. Appears I am paying the price for gasket reuse. We have a small fuel leak here. So we'll swap out that gasket on this side here. I think this is where our leak is here on this gasket. Of course, it's not going to come off cleanly, so we'll need to razor knife it now. This is what happens when you try to cut corners, folks. It comes back to bite you. All right, got a new gasket in place. Lesson learned, we'll not do that again. There we go, no more leaks. Don't reuse gaskets. All right, how did this thing come apart? Let's see, this throttle linkage went on here, right? Did I make these lines too short? Gotta be freaking kidding me. Oh, yeah, the return line's too short. Not my day. All right, I think we're good now. Just reran that one line. Let's put these T25 Torxes back on, and we'll see if she starts up. We got to check the oil in this thing though, because again, this is a 4-stroke. Snug those up real good. All right, let's get her on the floor and see what happens. All right, check the oil off camera. It seems fine. It's a little dark, so we'll change it if this thing runs okay. So, it doesn't seem like there's the choke lever. So let's give it a couple of pumps. Give it a tug. She runs. Okay, now that we got it nice and warmed up, let's drain the existing oil out. This takes just regular 30 weight oil. We'll be using 10W30. It takes, I think, a total of 90 milliliters. So I'm just going to drain it into one of these jars here. It should be more than adequate to hold the amount of oil in this thing. Just tip it out, tip it over. That's lovely. Make as much of a mess as you can. That's pretty important. Not a lot of oil in here. Let's see how much came out. Just about 50 ounces. Man, okay, maybe a little low. Okay, tilted it a bunch of times, and accounting for spillage, I got maybe 55, 60 milliliters out of there, so we're a bit low on oil. So what I'm gonna do is get rid of this stuff here, throw it in my waste oil container and properly dispose of that. We'll clean out this jar right here, or this Pyrex container, and then we'll get the proper amount of 10W30 and throw it in there. Pennzoil Platinum 10W30, not a sponsor. I think we'll shoot for just under 100 milliliters. Hopefully that'll use up most of this container. Yeah, it's probably pretty close to 90. All right, I think what we're gonna do is take the machine. Hopefully you guys can see this. I got a funnel. We'll just do it like this so we don't spill very much. That should be all the oil we need. All right, folks, I think that's going to do it. Yeah, this thing had disintegrating fuel lines. There was nothing left to them. They were crumbling in my hands. We took those old fuel lines out. We made some new ones. Maybe it took a couple of times, but that's my fault, not yours. And give it an oil change, and now it's time to give it back to the customer. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, please subscribe, stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.